Welcome back to the Lord of Chaos review. I'm putting this out a lot later than I said I would. Basically, if you didn't watch the video I put out last week, I got COVID and I had exams I needed to study for, and I had a project that needed to get done, so here we are a month later. As usual, at this point in the series, I'll leave a card in the corner for you guys to click on if you haven't watched part 1 of the review yet. So I'm just going to get straight into this, talking about the girls first. After part 1 of this review, somebody said they were unsubscribing because they didn't like how much I disliked the female characters and how much I talked about that dislike. So taking that into consideration, I'm going to complain about the girls now for a while. I think Elayne was the first one to make an appearance POV wise, so I'm going to talk about her first. Already can't really remember much to say about her. I really don't like Elayne at all. I've had people in the comments in the videos up to this point saying how the main female leads are on this journey of redemption and all that, but there's literally nothing that makes me want to see these characters redeemed. I'm even actively rooting against Egwene, hoping wholeheartedly for her death, as people who have been following the channel know. The only characters I'm actually hoping to see succeed in the female cast are Nynaeve and Swan. Nynaeve was really good in this book. I think she's pretty consistently been having the best character development in the recent books. We start off with Elayne and Nynaeve in Saladar, where they're prepping to go into Tel'aran'rhiod Riyadh with the other Aes Sedai, and we get that sequence where the Aes Sedai, being the overconfident geniuses that they are, end up getting themselves caught in a lingering nightmare, and Elayne has to save their asses. Honestly, I was pretty disappointed none of the Aes Sedai died here, but hey, it is what it is. After that, she's basically just making Terangrial and worrying about Rand and bonding him and all that shit. I think that's all. She has her, hey, let's share talks with Min and Avienda, and then that's pretty much it. Elayne just really annoys me with her sense of entitlement and expecting people to do as she says. Like, maybe this is just because of my own bias here with Matt being my boy and all that, but the way Nynaeve and Elayne treated him in this book really infuriated me, especially Elayne with her annoying shit trying to get Matt and the band to all become her little minions. And again, maybe this is just me being biased, but the way she went after Matt's Angrial really annoyed me as well. Like, I can understand why she, not even just her, how any Aes Sedai would have that curiosity and want to study that Angrial, but I don't know, I guess the way she just went about it just kept pissing me off. And I just really want Matt to stop being so nice to the girls. Honestly, I'm getting sick of it. He is more than they deserve, and hopefully whenever he marries this Seanchan woman, the queen, the princess, whichever one he ends up marrying, that puts an end to that nicety, because I doubt Egwene, and by extension the other girls, will be too thrilled about that marriage. I like the tiny bit of characterization we got from Birgitte more than anything we got from Elayne in this. We see how Birgitte is anxious about having to live up to people's expectations of Birgitte from the legends if they were to find out her true identity, as she believes she'll be a disappointment because whenever she was reborn previously, she wasn't aware of it. Maybe that's the difference that makes male channelers go insane. The taint makes whoever they're the reincarnate of be aware of the fact that they are in somebody else's body, and females going without that taint, whoever they're the reincarnate of, doesn't have that awareness. Maybe that's what the difference is that makes them go insane there. So the main plotline for the girls in this is the Saladar and Elaida tensions after the delegation arrives. I've said numerous times on the channel that this is an anti-Aes Sedai channel, so if I'm being honest, I just didn't really care about this at all. It does present interesting possible consequences for the world at large, but that just isn't enough to keep me intrigued. It was interesting seeing the Dark Friends at work though, like Delena and Aaron Gar, and also we got to learn about the hierarchy of the Aes Sedai and how that's based on how long each Aes Sedai spent at each stage of becoming an Aes Sedai, as well as how strong they are with the one power. That was cool. It's more Jordan's world building, so what's not to like about that? I guess I'll talk about Egwene now. Yay! Egwene is Amyrlin's Heat now, and I hate that with every fibre of my being for three main reasons. I knew Egwene was going to be Amyrlin. It was foreshadowed a lot in previous books, and in this book alone, the Aes Sedai made it really obvious that by the end of this book, Egwene will be Amyrlin. But after it was foreshadowed in previous books, I just didn't expect it to happen this soon. So reason number one is simply my own bias. I hate Egwene, don't want to see her succeed. Reason number two is that I just don't like this character arc progression. In book 1, Egwene does nothing. In book 2, she's a Damani. In book 3, she gets captured in Tanchico. In book 4, she's with the Aiel. In book 5, she is still with the Aiel. And then in book 6, she is the Amyrlin Seat of Saladar. She also has her character arc of being a Dreamwalker scattered through, books 3 to 6 as well. But really, I understand the Amyrlin of Saladar is not the same as the Amyrlin we've seen in previous books, but this just seems like... I just don't like the pacing of it at all, really. It just seems like too sudden a jump in status for Egwene, and the way I see it, this is only done so that the girls can advance to keep up with the boys. Egwene is just giving this position by the other Aes Sedai, and Egwene just gives these promotions to Elayne and Nynaeve. I understand the Aes Sedai just wanted to have Egwene as this kind of puppet Amyrlin, but I'm just not digging it. I already don't like her acting as one. I think it is lame as fuck how she just elevated Nynaeve and Elayne to Aes Sedai like that straight off the bat. You have this established system of female channelers becoming Aes Sedai in your world, and all the important characters just get to skip multiple steps in that system. You have someone go from accepted to Amyrlin seat because of loopholes in the wording of the rules. That is just so lame to me. And the female characters, of course, have to be as annoying as possible. So we have Elayne and Nynaeve constantly getting pissy over people not treating them like proper Aes Sedai. Like, you are legit not proper Aes Sedai, you dunces. Nynaeve even proved herself not to be a proper Aes Sedai straight away in her very first conversation with Tillin in Ebo Dar. She literally flopped at every opportunity in that interaction. I just don't see how Egwene is possibly competent enough as a person to be Amyrlin Seat. Rand being competent as a Dragon Reborn is a result of him reading his books in the Son of Tyr, his lessons in Dace Daymar from Tom, Huron, and Moiraine. So he's probably had some helping out from the past memories of Lews Therin. He's gotten his lessons in how to rule a country from Elayne as well in the Son of Tyr. And then, of course, all the time he spent with the Isle. Are you telling me all it takes for Egwene to be a good Amyrlin is her time spent with the Wise Ones learning Dreamwalking and picking up on G8O, and then whatever lessons she got as an Accepted and Novice? And apparently she's been eavesdropping on Rand and Moraine's lessons in the past. Like, how convenient is that for Egwene to share that little bit of information with us at this point in the story? You may say I contradicted myself there, saying that the Isle helped Rand become capable but not Egwene. The reason I'm saying this is because the subject of their teachings were completely different. There may have been some overlap there, like they've definitely both picked up on the same things when it comes to some aspects of Isle culture, but Rand is the Cara Karn, he's gonna learn how to be a leader in that position. Of course, Egwene would have picked up on a lot from the Wise Ones, seeing how they run things when they're in charge with the Isle. But again, I just don't see this contributing to Egwene being able to stand at the top of all Aes Sedai. Egwene is definitely strong enough with the One Power, and she has been shown to be a very clever girl in the past, but I just don't see how she's going to be able for that role without other characters being nerfed in the process to facilitate that. Like, take Shiraim, for example. Are you telling me all it takes to fool Shiraim is to be like, oh wow, where would I be without you, Shiraim? Just stroke that Aes Sedai's ego, and now you are this master manipulator of these people that have been controlling kings and queens from behind the scenes for I can't even remember how long, and even the one that was in charge of disciplining novices in the past, no less, the one in charge of disciplining Egwene in the past. Reason number 3 why I'm not a fan of this is that I am genuinely scared for my enjoyment of the series going forward. With Egwene as the Amyrlin, I assume she's going to be an even more prevalent POV character going forward, which I'm just not looking forward to at all. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I highly doubt I will enjoy much to do with Egwene. So that has me a bit fearful for how much I will enjoy the books going forward. I don't want certain points of the reading experience to turn into hate reads just because of how much Egwene is in the series. I could complain about everything Egwene did to annoy me in this book, but I've done that in every review to date, so I'll leave it out. I do have to say though, I thought the ceremony for becoming Amyrlin Seat was so silly. The central theme of this book was having women be naked down to the waist. And I thought it was ridiculous how the ceremony for becoming Amyrlin Seat of all things was washing a bunch of feet while everyone remained stripped. Now, you can say this is a cultural thing or whatever you want to say, but the fact this happened in the book where women are so often naked down to the waist just made it really hard to actually justify the ceremony being the way it was. So moving on to what I didn't dislike about Egwene's arc, I thought the end of her time with the Wise Ones was good. As much as it pains me to say so, I thought it was admirable how she actually followed G8O properly and admitted her lies to the Wise Ones, and I did think it was wise of her to decide to let anyone who shows potential to channel stay at the tower, regardless of age or other criteria. I said I was done with complaints about Egwene, but I forgot about something. Her relationship with Gawain. This is a truly awful romance, and it is just insta-love. If I was wrong about what I said last book with regards to Taviran and reincarnates being the reason the romances are the way they are, then there is really no excuse for a romance this bad. And even for someone like me who doesn't care for romance in their fantasy books or really want it in there at all, even a romance that bad annoyed me in this book. But because I do dislike Egwene as much as I do, I can even understand how this is even a thing, this relationship. Because Egwene being Egwene, all it took was for her to see how utterly in love with her Gawain is in his dreams, and then she fell for him. Egwene is just the worst, the absolute worst. Moving on to Nynaeve. Nynaeve probably had the best character development again in this book. It's between her and Rand. When we first meet Nynaeve, she is working with the Adam on Moghedien, who was in fact Marigan, so I was right about that in the Fires of Heaven review. Nynaeve is mainly dealing with her block and trying to heal Stilling in this, and at the same time she's getting more and more paranoid about being caught hiding Moghedien from the Aes Sedai. Ultimately, though, Nynaeve's cowardice is the root cause for all her struggles. She's scared of failure when it comes to her block, which leads to avoidance, but we get to gradually see her recover from that, and by the end of the book we see how determined she is once again to break through her block with the aid of Theodrin's instructions. So she definitely made up for some points she lost with me during the Fires of Heaven. I really enjoyed seeing her by that point in the book. We see her dealing with her cowardice again with her paranoia. After what Moghedien did to her in the last book, she is afraid of what will happen should the Aes Sedai in Saladar find out what she's been hiding, and we get this moment where she confronts her cowardice head on when she's eavesdropping on the Aes Sedai, trying to find out what their decision is regarding Elaita's offer. I thought that was a really great moment for Nynaeve. But of course, her biggest achievement in this book was the healing of Leanne, Swan, and Loghain. But if I'm being honest, I thought it was a bit too soon as well. I thought the chapter where she healed Loghain was awesome, and I'm so hyped for him going forward. But Egwene is suddenly Amyrlin's seat, and Swan and Leanne only had to be stilled for one book. I'm not saying I'd change this, but I don't know, it just kind of felt weirdly quick for me in a series that is this slow-paced. I think that's it for the girls. Nicola seemed pretty overpowered. She has 2 talents, if I'm not mistaken. The first one being foresight, and the second one being the ability to detect ta'veren, unless the latter is just an offshoot of the former. Dark Friend predictions, I'm not too sure really. I think Theodrin and Anaya maybe. Theodrin have no evidence. She just gives me bad vibes. She's a bit creepy. And Anaya has been somebody I've been saying could be a Dark Friend since the Grey Hunt, and the way she reacted to the what are they called? The bubbles of evil, the nightmare that happened in Saladar, that was a bit too sus for me. I know Nynaeve had her little outburst there towards the end where she attributed how Anaya reacted to how the Aes Sedai were planning to combat Forsaken using links and all of that, but I think there might be a bit more to that than meets the eye. We have the Ebudar stuff as well, but nothing really important has happened in that arc so far. It's kind of just set up for the next book, it seems. We did learn a good bit about the Ebudar culture, which is nice world building. I think I already talked about that in part 1, so I'm not going to talk about it more here. But the main thing to take away from that arc so far has been that Matt has met one of the Haleen in the inn. So if the epilogue is anything to go off of, it seems Ebudar will be taken over by the Shanshan at some point. There's also the runaways that the Aes Sedai are after. I have no idea what their purpose is. If it has been mentioned, it's just completely gone out of my mind. I think maybe they could just be recruited again because of Egwene's new outlook on recruiting people, and it's just dire times. Or I think maybe they could be being recruited to be used for links. I want to talk a bit about my yin and yang stuff again. If you haven't watched my Shadow Rising review, I think in part 2 of that, I talked a bit about how the Aes Sedai symbol is actually yin and yang, but the Aes Sedai have forgotten what yin and yang is, so they misinterpret that symbol. What I wanted to add on to that after finishing this book is how the Aes Sedai symbol is also missing the seeds of yin and yang. And the seeds of yin and yang, for those of you who do not know, are the little circles present within yin and yang, the circles of the opposite color. So those seeds basically represent that dark and light, or negative and positive, carry the seeds of the opposite. So the way I think this applies to the Wheel of Time after finishing this book is in how Nynaeve healed Loghain and Rand is able to sense Saidar. I feel like both feats kind of show off that principle working in a way. And the more I thought about this after finishing the book, I thought of a way that maybe it connects to the Dark One as well. So in my Dragon Reborn review, I had this other theory where I was talking about the bits of what's her name? Corianne and Nadil's notes that was left behind and Varen has a hold of. So more specifically, in those notes, it mentioned the soul of the shadow being the one that's able to stand against the heart of the shadow. So now I'm thinking that soul of the shadow is actually the seed of the shadow that would come from the yin and yang principle. I thought at the time that this was Rand, but now I actually think it's between Rand or Perrin. I actually think it's just Perrin, but I don't want to rule out Rand as an option. Perrin has to channel at some point. He has to. We already know from Egwene's visions that he's going to fly at some point. We also know from both Egwene and Hopper that he's going to summon every wolf from past, present, and future at some point. Side note here, I think this shows that you can in fact bring things from Tele and Riyadh into the physical world, like the Aes Sedai were wondering, and like Egwene attempted to do with her horse at some point. So I don't see how any of this is done without channeling. One of the viewings from Min that has had me stumped since the Great Hunt is that when she was it the Great Hunt? I think it was when she looked at Perrin, she saw darkness swirling around him. So I feel like it's possible that this is the perfect explanation for that viewing. I could be way off here, but I'm just gonna run with it. There's also my theory from the Fires of Heaven, where I think that the Wolf Brothers are actually a product of the Dark One. I believe that even more now after finishing this book, because in this book we have all these bubbles of evil popping up, right? And all these rumors. And what was one of the rumors from Mazrim Taim? That there's all these people coming up that are able to talk to animals. Who else do we know that can talk to animals already? Is it just a coincidence that more of them are coming out the woodwork when the Dark One's prison is getting weaker? If I'm writing this, then Perrin is going to be OP as fuck, because he would be the first person we know of that can channel from the shadow. Unless that's just how everybody with those abilities that aren't of the one power gets them, like Min and her viewings. Maybe that's the shadow version of foretellings, or I'm pulling a blank here. I'm pretty sure there's been one or two other abilities people have shown that aren't of the one power, but that they've been using. Like Mirren, she opened the door in the Dark One's prison trying to access this power of the shadow because she thought it would be a source that enables people to do more than they can with the true source. Even if I'm wrong on this, I'm just excited for Perrin to finally channel, and even if I'm wrong on him channeling, I'm excited to see him bring all those wolves into the physical world. That's going to be so hype. Of course, another candidate to be the Seed of the Shadow is Matt. Matt is the obvious choice in this. There's a lot more present in the story so far to indicate him being the one in that position, but I'm just going to go with my Perrin headcanon for now, because honestly the way I've had it worked out in my head is making sense so far, so I'm going to believe in that until I'm proven wrong. So talking about Perrin's chapters now, if the Perrin content is as sparse in the next book, I will be so upset. I will riot. I know this book has been out for many years. I don't care. I'll riot by myself. We finally get some Perrin content towards the end of this book, but when we do, it's mostly him and Fail, which is whatever. I did enjoy the part where he met Davram Bashir and Deira Bashir, though I thought those were some pretty good interactions. And we finally got a mention of the Broken Crown being something that Min first saw in Perrin's aura in the Eye of the World. I thought at the time that this was something signifying that Perrin was going to become a king and be defeated, and that's why the crown was broken. I guess I was way off there. It seems to be something to do with Davram Bashir and Aura Saldea. And Perrin during the ending chapters was amazing. I know I said this in my last review, but I gotta say it again after reading The Order Chaos. The main male trio is so much better than the main female one. I just have to say it again. When we first meet Perrin, he is in the prologue in the Two Rivers, and he is shrugging off his responsibilities as the Lord of the Two Rivers, kind of leaving all the Lord and Lady business to Fail. Then fast forward to the end of the book, and Rand gets captured, and Perrin is like, okay, shit just got real. Yes, I am Lord Perrin, do as I say, we gotta get a move on. Rand needs to be saved. And I loved watching him amass his forces and get everybody assembled into positions ready for the long journey to Dumai's Wells. And watching him communicate with the wolves again was so good, and then how they went berserk over Rand being captured was great. When the wolves said we come, I was so damn hyped, I literally got chills. And then we had this moment from Perrin where him being the absolute gem that he is, when Karuna comes up to him and she's like, oh, there's not enough Aes Sedai, he's like, okay, you can turn around and go south then, I'm not letting Elaida have Rand. What a guy. The three Emmons Field boys are most definitely my top three characters at the moment. I think that's all for Perrin. There's been these visions in the last few books where it's been shown to us that Aram is going to lead to danger for Perrin. I'm not really sure what this is signifying on a deeper level than just that it's going to result in danger for Perrin. Like, Aram is so loyal to Perrin at this point, it seems, that I'm not really sure what would cause him to turn against Perrin, unless he just gets eventually sick of Perrin's unwillingness to go as far as he is. But I don't really see that being enough as a motivator for him to betray Perrin. I think maybe he could end up being Isam from Book 4 using Aram's face. I'm not sure if that would be the case at the moment, or if Slayer kills him at a later date and then takes over. Finally, we have Dumai's Wells. What an incredible battle this will be. A very hard ending to beat for me. It was just perfect from both Rand's and Perrin's side. I think I already talked about how much I enjoyed the charge with the wolves and all of that in part 1. I hope I did. But what I really loved, again, in Dumai's Wells is the positional contrast of Perrin at Dumai's Wells versus Perrin at the Battle of the Two Rivers. At the Battle of the Two Rivers, it was Perrin at the center fighting for his life. Then at Dumai's Wells, it was Perrin trying to break into the center from the outside, trying to get into the middle to save Rand. And I love that positional contrast. I don't know if it was intentional, but I really loved that it was there. Then we have Rand and his being tortured by Galena and the other Aes Sedai. I've seen people say that Rand is a masterpiece character, and I can definitely see how he's getting there in moments like these where he's forced to truly confront Lews Therin's presence for the first time. It's just the two of them in that box, and it leads to them communicating properly for the first time and agreeing to work together to get themselves out of that mess. Fantastic moment for Rand's arc. This leads to what was probably the most satisfying read of the series so far for me. Rand bursting open the box, stilling Aes Sedai, and quickfire shielding Aes Sedai from the One Power. Then we get this display of just how powerful a weapon Rand has had made by Mazrim Taim in the Ashaman. I don't know what people in the community refer to this moment as. I'm just going to call it the One Power meat grinder. That scene was absolutely brutal. Something about realizing what was about to happen added such a weight of tension, and when Taim said Ashaman kill, and as the slaughter progressed, I just found myself repeatedly going like, what the fuck is happening? Like, say what you want about the flaws of Wheel of Time, but I feel like it would be very hard pressed to find a series that tops the highs of this series. And I'm not even halfway yet. I still need to finish A Crown of Swords to be halfway. And as if the battle wasn't phenomenal enough already, we get this moment where Rand finally puts his foot down with the Aes Sedai and embraces a new zero tolerance attitude towards them. I don't care if Taim ends up being a dark friend. His line, kneel and swear before the Lord Dragon or you will be knelt, gave me goosebumps and will be my favourite line of the series for a long time, I already know. All the peaks of this battle just gave me chills, and not even mentioning how expertly choreographed it was. There was a palpable sense of carnage from start to finish, and how everything flowed together between Rand's and Perrin's perspectives was done incredibly well. There were wolves, Aiel, channelers, and soldiers just all over the place, and Robert Jordan still made it all feel really focused. Probably thanks to the fact that it was all focused around reaching Rand in the middle, but I'm not going to analyse the fight too much. Daniel Green already has a battle examination video for Dumai's Wells on his channel, I believe. I have not watched it yet because I wanted to do my own review first before watching that, but it's Daniel Green. It's probably going to be good anyway, so go watch that if you want to watch something more in depth. I think that's everything for Book 6, guys. If I had any other thoughts on the broader scope of the world, I have forgotten them since recording part 1. Next week's video will be another indie book, so y'all won't watch that, but the week after that will be A Crown of Swords. So yeah, that's all. I'll see you guys in the next one.